Brazil, known as the land of coffee, samba, and football. The South American country has produced some of the greatest players in history. Pelé, Ronaldo Nazario, Romario, and Ronaldinho. Yes, those are some absolute icons of the game, but there is currently a young boy who is destined to conquer the footballing world. His name is Endrick, and this summer he will become the most expensive 18-year-old of all time, worth an astonishing 70 million euros. Yes, Endrick will be joining Real Madrid in the upcoming transfer window. In fact, he has already signed his official contract after agreeing to move to the Santiago Bernabeu at the end of 2022. However, he was only 16 at the time and had to turn 18 in order to continue his development in a foreign country. On the 21st of July, however, Endrick will be able to move to the world's most prestigious club, and he will join the likes of compatriots Rodrigo and Vinicius, Jude Bellingham, Fede Valverde, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and most likely even Kylian Mbappe, in what would probably be the most star-studded team in the world. Just imagine it, Carlo Ancelotti would have the biggest luxury problem in the world, trying to fit all those names into one team sheet. It would be really exciting for Madrid fans. Well, we've outlined the key points behind his move to Spain this summer, but let's talk about Endrick as a player, and also answer the question, what's the scary truth about him that nobody's noticed yet? Since his birth in the city of Brasilia in the summer of 2006, Endrick has had a very difficult life. He grew up in a poor family, as his father tried to make a living as a professional footballer, but to no avail. He left the family and tried his luck in a number of small clubs in the city, but never really stood out from his teammates. His mother, meanwhile, was unemployed for a long time. And Endrick and his three siblings were forced to live in an orphanage in Sao Paulo until their parents got back on their feet. Despite the hard times, Endrick never gave up on his dream and played football whenever he got the chance. Whether in Brasilia or Sao Paulo, the ball was always at his feet. Eventually, when it came clear that Endrick's father would struggle to break into professional sports, he joined Palmeiras, but as a janitor rather than a footballer. He played with his son all the time and even posted videos of his skills on YouTube to attract the interest of top clubs. Endrick was a truly amazing talent, and his dad knew it. In the end, the young Brazilian joined Palmeiras at the age of 11 with the help of his father, who did everything he could to persuade the club's directors to take a look at his qualities. But did you know that Endrick has been linked with Real Madrid long before his move? At the age of 8, he trained in a Real Madrid camp with his friends in Brazil. And from that day onwards, he started supporting them and idolizing arguably the greatest Brazilian to play for the club, Luiz Nazario de Lima, or simply Ronaldo. After signing for Palmeiras, Endrick spent the next 6 years in all of the club's youth teams. Between 2016 and 2022, Endrick played for the junior, under-17, under-19 and under-21 teams, scoring a staggering 165 goals. The highlight of his youth career came at a so-called Sao Paulo Cup, where he scored 8 goals and was named player of the tournament. It was also the first time he caught the eye of Europe's top clubs, including Real Madrid, who immediately put him on their shortlist. Los Blancos already had great success in bringing in young Brazilian talent following the signings of Rodrigo and Vinicius, so they had no hesitation in turning their attention to Endrick. Before the transfer could be made official, Endrick had to endure other famous moments that would stay with him for the rest of his life. In early October 2022, he made his senior debut for Palmeiras, and just 3 weeks later scored his first goals for the team in a 3-1 win over Atlético Paranaense. Curiously, it was also the first time that the two future stars of La Liga and Brazil, Endrick and Vitor Roque, came up against each other as professionals. The latter already moved to the other Spanish giant, Barcelona, and next season the two could clash in El Clásico. So in the space of a few days, Endrick became the youngest player ever to appear and score in the Brazilian Serie A. After getting under the spotlight and being praised by some of the biggest media in Europe, including the English The Guardian, he signed a contract that would bring his career to a whole new level. On the 15th of December 2022, Real Madrid announced that they had reached an official agreement with Palmeiras, Endrick and his parents to sign the player in July 2024. Including the add-ons, the Spanish club will pay just over 70 million euros. Now let's talk about the comparisons between Endrick and his idol, Ronaldo Nazario. Interestingly, the youngster finished his first season in professional football with 11 goals, which is actually the second highest tally for an under-18 player, behind R9. Like his famous compatriots Pelé, Ronaldo and Neymar, Endrick has had that superstar vibe since his early years in the Brazilian league. We all remember the hype surrounding Neymar between 2010 and 2013. Before he moved to Barcelona, he was Santos' biggest star, and historically the club has had some of its best periods during this time. Players like Ronaldo, Neymar and Endrick are rare, and their talent and determination largely define the legacy they are destined to leave in the game. Yes, it is a fact that statistically speaking, Endrick will never come close to the numbers that R9 and Neymar had in the Brazilian league before moving on to the big clubs. The reason for this, however, is that Endrick is so impressive that he was the quickest to catch the eye of the big guns, signing his first contract with Real Madrid at the age of 16. By comparison, Ronaldo and Neymar put their signatures with Barcelona and Real Madrid at 20 and 21 respectively. However, this doesn't mean that Endrick was not decisive in the most crucial moments for Palmeiras. In this context, the super important match against Botafogo in early November 2023 immediately comes to mind. Up to that point in the season, Endrick had scored just 3 goals in 19 games, largely due to a few minor injury problems and frequent substitute appearances. For most of the season, Palmeiras had been running in the top 4 of the Brazilian Serie A, with Botafogo at the top. On the 3rd of November, however, Palmeiras were away to one of their main rivals for the title, and a win would have seen Endrick's side go top of the standings with 7 games to go. Everyone knew that this was one of the games of the season, and that it would go a long way to deciding the title race, and it turned out to be an absolute thriller. Palmeiras, however, got off to a disastrous start, going 3-0 down at the end of the first half and leaving their fans with the feeling that their beloved team would not be able to defend the title. But they forgot about their star boy, who produced one of the most impressive performances by a 17-year-old. Thinking they had already won the game, Botafogo's players dropped their level to play to the delight of their opponents. In the 49th minute, Endrick showed why he is a generational talent by scoring a solo goal for the ages. He dribbled through the heart of the Botafogo defense before unleashing a thunderous shot to make it 3-1. Then, with 10 minutes remaining and Palmeiras losing hope of a comeback, Endrick struck again, this time from the edge of the box. But that wasn't his last moment of brilliance. In the 89th minute, he managed to swerve a perfect cross at the far post that was eventually headed home by teammate Jose Lopez. Yes, Palmeiras had done the impossible and produced a comeback reminiscent of Liverpool's remarkable turnaround against Milan in the 2005 Champions League final, from 3-0 down to 3-3. But a draw wasn't enough for Palmeiras. They had to win the game to have any chance of winning the title. And in the end, they did it literally in the last moments of the game. In the 9th minute of added time, Palmeiras picked up 14 points from a possible 21 in the final 7 games of the Serie A season to win the title for the second time in the 17-year-old's career. However, it would largely be remembered as the Endrick's trophy, as it wouldn't have been possible if he hadn't delivered when it mattered the most. Yes, we have come to the conclusion that Endrick is very similar to R9 in many ways. He has the build, speed and dribbling ability of Ronaldo Nazario, and even if you watch him closely during a game, you would really think that R9 has restarted his career, watching Endrick. As well as that, as we mentioned earlier, Endrick has that aura, that superstar vibe of a man who is destined to rule the footballing world for the next 2 decades. However, there are some truly frightening details that Endrick should be aware of when comparing himself to Ronaldo. R9 will forever be remembered as one of the greatest strikers in history, there is no doubt about that, but also one of the most what-if players ever. The Brazilian legend suffered a horrific knee injury during his time at Inter and spent over a year recovering. And as we compare him to the icon, Endrick also plays a style of football that can put his body under incredible stress, especially when changing direction, as Ronaldo did more than 20 years ago. To put it simply, players with a low center of gravity who rely heavily on the dribble as their primary weapon are more prone to serious injuries such as ACL or meniscus tears. This season alone, there have been several examples of similar injuries to players with profiles close to Endrick's. Gavi, Neymar and Aston Villa's Emiliano Buendia are just some of the names who have missed almost the entire 2023-24 season with knee injuries. That perhaps is what Endrick and his supporters should be most worried about. Fortunately, in modern football there are plenty of ways to prevent this from happening. Recovery supplements, ice baths, and a well-structured training regime are just some of the methods Real Madrid are sure to offer their young superstar. Most importantly, however, Endrick must not be overloaded with minutes in his first season in a foreign country with a different league and completely different dynamics. Because we have a superstar in the making, and it would be a shame not to witness his tremendous talent. As always, we are keen to hear your thoughts and opinions on Endrick's future. Will he be the star everyone expects him to be, or will he have the misfortune to struggle with injuries and confidence? Also, please like and subscribe to the channel, as well as jump straight to our latest uploads you can see on your screen. Now, as usual, be awesome and see you on the pitch.